Okay, great. We are back for another Tech Tuesday, and this month we actually have special guests with us. So today we brought on a client of ours, On Purpose Adventures. I'll let them kind of talk about themselves here, but we've been working with them for over 2 years now, both on the CRM side, building out a great CRM, and then implementing that with Monday.com for project management. The short story is they do events, but Ben, I'll let you talk a lot more about what you guys do and the value that you bring to all of your clients, and then we'll kind of dig into the behind the scenes.
Well, thank you. And this is one of those stories where friends can work and do business together, since Jon and I have known each other close to 10 years at this point. So it's exciting, and we've hopefully he hasn't wanted to fire me, so that's the good thing. So,
yeah.
We are actually celebrating 15 years of On Purpose Adventures this year, and excited about that. And so this is a great time to reflect and see where we've come from. A one-man shop to a team, in different parts of the state and serving the country and internationally. So pretty exciting. Overall, I am classically trained as an industrial engineer. So systems and processes and the way my brain works in those things. The hardest thing to do, I'm also a high D in the DISC side of things, an 8 in Enneagram. And so I'm a driver, and some would say a control freak. I feel I've overcome a lot of that, in the sense that I want to delegate, and so that's been the hardest thing, though, is taking the time to allow others to do the thing and be okay with the 80% of what I can do is good enough to move forward and all that. And so that's been the journey. To anybody listening that is worrying about, having other people take over or what a systems can do, and what it's allowed me to do is kind of be unshackled and kind of focus on growth, because the internal stuff, the ops, is taken care of. And so that's been a great thing. But overall, we are employee retention based team building and bonding that is unconventional and very effective, from adventure-based scavenger hunts using an app, to escape games, to gamified training, to workshops and actual team building training under our cohesion culture program, which is employee retention focused on belonging, value, commitment. And so all of those things used to be managed by events in my head, and I've been blessed to have a very good memory, and I am glad that we got to the point that I can't keep it in my head, but most likely I can. There's still things that I drop. So it's really important to have the team with all the notes and back and forth, and allows me to actually go out and focus the things that I like to do, which is actually facilitating and sales. So
yeah, that's great. And when did you bring Beth in? I can't remember when you brought Beth in.
No idea.
Beth, we'll let you answer that one.
I'm pretty sure it was 2022, and he was seeking some people to help with the game creation, and I was interested in that too. And then he saw what I do as, support, virtual assisting, and that, operations support through my own business. And so then we just have started working together ever since. And I get to do pretty much a little bit of everything, even in the field once in a while, but primarily operations and engagement. And so I have truly enjoyed the process side of things. And I agree that Ben's been great to allow freedom. He allows me a lot of freedom with kind of figuring out what we need and all that. And I have thoroughly enjoyed working with Jon on creating what we need. We've come a long way since 22. Yeah. When I think back of what we were first trying to figure out, how to make sure certain communications went out. And then we've become more and more nuanced in the last even year in terms of what we are able to customize for events, and to be able to try to work some of our systems in to cooperate with that ability. It can get challenging sometimes when people want certain specific things and you have multiple events happening near, or sometimes they have teams at the same day, even this week when that was happening. So it's been a fun ride for me to kind of work with you all on improving that.
I'll bring this up and let Beth, you get to share the part of this that you're comfortable with sharing, but sometimes there can be some pushback on the desire for automizing, to make things internal when that is part of somebody else's role. So it's like a question of, well, if this is being done this way, what do I get to do? So Beth can share some of that because she was brought on, taught some things. And then I'm like, I had this great idea. Let's do these automations. And so Beth, you can share on your journey on that aspect.
I think there is, there's always, you want some job security. And I have in my history of so many years of office management, office support roles, and then many years as my own business as a virtual assistant. I have actually lost major clients once they needed to bring on a full-timer, or I've been phased out of jobs because they wanted a specialist on something now, and I was an expert. I was an expert generalist. And so when you talk about automations, that can be a valid concern that, well, if you just start automating everything, what are you going to use me for? And I like the feel good of the checklist that this got done, this got done, this got done. And I do think that Ben saw a little more in me that wasn't being tapped into in some other areas, some relationship cultivating, some client facing things we're talking. And there's been some successful chats with clients after he sold an event. Then they talk to me about some things they want to customize. And I don't know, it just seems like it brings another personal aspect, like somebody else in the office is listening to what their culture is like and how do we get that into the game more. And so by automating, it does free me up to do more with the team or to do more of the big picture. And I'm detail oriented as far as what I can picture, what I want to see done, but I don't always execute certain details right. I look at it this way. I know what I would want a fancy dinner to look like, but I'm not so good at laying out each place setting perfectly and remembering, I want to be able to say, hey, we need it this way, and this is what it needs to look like. But the execution of the exact right phone numbers and the exact right emails, we've had a few times that I'm too fast, and then we have things bounce back and stuff like that. So part of the automations help with some of that stuff to help keep things out of my head and on a standard list of what makes, so we don't miss things.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and you're kind of giving the sales pitch for us as far as, automations are helpful because it gives you more time to do the more important things, right? Because a lot of this stuff, to your point, automation can be scary, but you are able to spend more time at that human interaction piece, which really adds a lot of value back to the clients and helps you guys deliver a better experience, which I know, Ben, you've been very focused on that ever since the beginning. And so I'm glad we were able to build that. One thing I want to kind of give is just a high level snapshot of all the different, gears that we have working behind the scenes. So you have some people that are just interested in a download because they're just kind of curious what On-Purpose Adventure does. So inside the toolkit, we have helped implement kind of automations that send out those different things. We tag them appropriately. We have some automated follow-ups there. So that's kind of a standard lead magnet, type deal that's been out forever. But the bigger one is when a client is ready to kind of start buying an actual package. And I know I'll show save the screen sharing for later when we have more time. But essentially, we have put together a form that probably has 30 or 40 questions on it that really makes it easy to understand all of the yeses and nos, all of the details of what needs to go into that event. And when that happens, we generate really a deal in a pipeline, and that stays inside of the toolkit while we then go and create a full list of action items over in Monday.com for the team to execute on. Those are scheduled out based off of the importance of those or kind of like the timeline, right? We know the event might be 5 months out from now, but there's a couple things we have to do today. There's a couple things that have to happen in 3 or 4 months from now, and then obviously the week leading up to it. And so before it was kind of tracking all of that. I think our first implementation was Monday.com. So we kind of built that automation piece. But it was the communication piece too of understanding things. We're also adding calendar invites so the team knows, hey, I need to get videos ready on these days based off the event. We just added the ability to invite your facilitators to a new calendar invite, right? And then we have the emails that go out 8 months after the event is over, right? I'm kind of giving the highlight reel, but some of the stuff that I just mentioned probably didn't exist 3 months ago. And the reason I bring this up is your systems have always been growing. And I think a lot of people think oh, I'm going to build this system today and this is going to last me forever. And Ben, you and I both with technology systems backend, like any new shiny object, we're excited to kind of bring some of that stuff in. And that's where I've had a lot of fun because Ben, one, you and I are on a very similar wavelength of, I'm sure this is possible because I've seen it in this other really complicated app somewhere. Can we emulate it in the system that we have? And I'd say 9 out of 10 times, like I figure out a way to do it. And, you know, you push me beyond my limits sometimes, but it's fun to kind of learn that. One of my favorite new ones is you're like, well, for Google Meet, we all have AI note takers, but I want to make phone calls out of the toolkit. How do I transcribe that? And so we found a way to capture the recording, get the transcription, put the notes the way that you want it using ChatGPT request. And so now you can go back and look at all of those notes, or somebody on your team can. And like, it was something so simple of like, we're so used to it in a Google Meet or a Zoom setting. How do I do this on a real cell phone? And we were able to do that. And that just comes down to like the need for those notes and just the realization of like this technology has to exist some way, somehow.
I'm glad you got it to that point, because I was going to, if you only talk the ops side, I was like, well, it starts way before the actual form goes in, because, and just today, the power of this, I'm on the go. Take most of my calls like on mobile. Like I could take sales calls in a kayak, on a boat, it's whatever. And I don't want to rely on my memory anymore to remember things. And sometimes I have 3 or 4 calls in a day. Okay, which hotel are you starting at? How many people? What are the goals? So by being able to have the recording, but also the bullets out of it, and then we have it designed to say what the client owes me and what we owe the client. And so like I can come back to it on a computer or even on my phone. I have it as a pin, the documents pinned to my home screen, so I can literally click on it. And I can find out, oh, I need to include these things in my email follow-up, pull up my template for the general thing, and then add these elements to it. And just today, I had a conversation, and she's like, oh my gosh, we are covering so much good stuff. I can't keep up. And I'm like, hey, I'll send you the recording and the notes. And she was so excited to hear that, because when I shared it, it even reminded her of what she owed. Like it literally, I literally copied and pasted, and it says what client owes us. And it literally bullets out what she's supposed to send to us. Mm-hmm. And the hardest part is delivering what I got to send to her, because I still don't want to be on a computer and do that. So as soon as we can fully automate that whole process, that'll be great. So
yeah, but I think that's helpful. I actually like AI in some ways, because everybody knows it exists now. You sending that list didn't sound like you were hounding her of like, you must get me these 8 things by end of the day. Essentially, it's like this was extracted from our conversation. Some of them were very casual throwaway action items, but it's a lot friendlier knowing that a computer kind of it listened to every word and created these. Sometimes they're redundant, but that's okay. Like to me, that kind of removes the harshness of a human saying, you need to give me these 8 things before I can work with you.
It's a gift too. Yeah.
Very big gift. But I also orchestrate and use certain language in the conversation. I have changed my conversation to include certain things to make sure it picks that up. I said, so what you're going to do is, I literally say that, so it pulls that up. I'm like, and what is your CEO's name? And so it says that. And so when it pulls it up, it's like going to send this information to my CEO, whoever, and so that makes it really fun that I'm able to manipulate the system, if you will, to make sure that it pulls out the things that I want.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And to your point, when you have back-to-back calls, that the CEO of company B would then be in your mind for company A, right? And names and things like that. So I think that's been really helpful. And then Beth, like let's dive in a little bit on the Monday side. I know this was one of our earlier creations, and as far as this whole system goes, but like that has evolved over time as far as one giving you the ability to go from maybe 20 tasks, and it's expanded sometimes to 25 tasks. The team has changed a little bit, so we're able to reassign those as those go out. But I know given any week, your team can log in and see kind of what's due for them. They know which customer/event that it's tied up to. And so that gives you full insight into things. And my favorite thing that you guys introduced to me was your the EDS, the event delivery detail sheet. Yeah. And so that was a really cool thing, because we have the template in a Google Doc, and it takes all of those 30 or 40 questions that were answered and generates that for you.
Yes.
And I don't think you share that with the client, but versus like a typical table that, you have to scroll sideways for 40 fields, or you have to scroll up and down, it puts it like in a nice presentable format. And so I think that was great. And I know it changes over time, but being able to generate a document all from like a form fill is great. And I know the biggest thing, and this is between the two of you, and I'm sure you both know it, but Ben, as you mentioned earlier, have details in your head. So by you filling out the form, you're essentially communicating with Beth the needs without a call or a voice note or like one of these different apps where things kind of get lost in translation. So as long as you can take your brain dump into those 40 fields, Beth has everything she needs to continue moving forward.
Right. Elements
We
for
also-
the
I was
the
going to say,
invoice.
we also, sometimes he just tells me, he sends me the email summary and I'm able to then plug it into the form and make sure all the holes are filled too. So
yeah, that's fantastic. And like, that gives you so much more time back.
The notes section in the form allow me to put the nuances. Okay, here's where we're starting and ending, which is covered, but they want this thing to happen. They want this thing to happen. And so I'm able to put that in there. That way it doesn't get lost anywhere, because those are notes from the conversation. And if they, I don't expect anybody else to review the conversation, that I've had, theoretically it's possible, but that's not part of our process. It's up to me putting those things in. If I forward on an email that has all the details, I need to do something to communicate that to Beth, to put that in or make those notes. But that event detail sheet is great because the next step is, once that all happens, our facilitators get assigned. We create a WhatsApp group, which is not automated, but it's a manual process, but it's behind the scenes. But we've now put the event detail sheet and other things, the time tracker sheet that we created, an expense form, all that goes in there, so that after each event, the facilitators, or during the event, they get to look at the details. So like we don't have to worry about, did I share that or did I not share that? It's right there for them.
Yeah, I
you've
love that.
essentially helped us from sales to the post-event process, and even now into some of the analysis from the finances or the paying facilitators, paying back expenses. That's all now part of you. You've had your hand in all those chapters, and it's getting better and better all the time.
Yeah, I will say that is always kind of a challenge of balancing technology needs with human needs. And so in this case, you need all of the humans that are involved with this event to understand what's going on. So we use technology to create the assets, but you also had the processes in place and knew where to put those assets so everybody could see it, right? Because if Ben was selfish and only cared about systems to make his life easier, that doesn't necessarily mean that, Beth, your life has been easier, or the facilitators. So they're calling Ben. I'm sure at one point in time, Ben, all your facilitators are calling you asking for details because it's all in your head, right? Or you wrote it down on the back of a napkin or sent it in a quick email 3 months ago, and they're scrambling to figure out like the details of it. So like you guys have these great processes in place.
There needs to be multiple ways of communication, for clarity. And I give this story when we do an event one time, and we used to have a system. I mean, we're talking 6, 7, 8 years ago. I'd put it in a document. We'd have a scheduling sheet, and most things would be covered because it'd be detailed. And one time we had a last minute. We used to do adventure-based bachelor and bachelorette parties, Nerf guns. They had high-power Nerf guns. We had single-shot Nerf guns. And I tell this story quite often, how we think we're communicating and being heard, and we're not. And last minute party popped up. I called the facilitator and I said, hey, got a Nerf party on Saturday at this location, this time. It's 27-year-olds. You good? She's like, okay, got it. She goes there. She shows up. She planned. She was ready for a bachelor party, right? Well, the plan for 27-year-olds, adults, is very different than 27-year-olds. If that was written, that would be easily identifiable. Yeah. But it was verbally said, and this is where we learn. You ask questions for clarity. You comprehension is key, not communication. Yeah.
And I know some of those details carry over into emails now, but I think we have 4 emails that go out over a series, like after the event is booked. It's got all the important details that they need. We're tracking that, which is really good, because especially in the industry you guys are in, like that, I don't want to call it over communication, that detailed communication is critical. So you don't get a party for 27-year-olds versus 20 individual 7-year-olds. So it's very easy to kind of have that highlighted. And I know you guys also work with third-party planners. And so like keeping track of that, of like, hey, I've got a party with company, you know, one person, but you've got a company with them, with company A at the beginning of March, another one at the end of March. So are we talking about company A or are we talking about company B? So tracking all of that has been good. I know we've carved out some small edge cases in those examples, because if they're working with you directly, they get certain communication, or if you're working through a third party, then they get slightly different communication. They're kind of pros at this point. So I think that's been good when we go back from the initial build was, I need a Monday board that helps me track all of my tasks for an event, right? And now that we have the contact management side, so Ben can do prospecting and sales calls and all of that is tracked, and then it immediately it's carried along over to the project management side. So there are two different sides of the business, but there's that continuity piece there, so you can look back at those notes, and you're not on two different islands.
And what I love about the operations side and the project management side is that even though there's a lot of things automated, I still can change things around. Like if I have things that spill into my to-do list and I really don't need to do those till 2 weeks from now because we're very busy this week, I can manually change the due dates, no problem. Or I can, in the contact management system, because we have sliding the cards over into the appropriate place before it triggers something, I still have some sense of control so that people aren't getting things, 12, 16 weeks before and they're going to forget about it. We don't move it till it's 8 weeks before. So I still have the human touch with it. It's just the things are already there. The pieces are there. So I don't have to recreate them every time.
Yeah.
But I can modify. And I really like that. And it helps sort everything into basically one to-do list. And that helps me, be saying a little bit about where are my things to be doing right now. So
there's two things where the implementation of our tech stack is important. It's one, building it before they come, right? And the ability to having scale. So having the systems in place, but also my personal one is also not a regret, but wishing I would have brought on admin staff or VAs earlier in my business to help manage. But by the fact that we have certain things in place, right now we are 7 weeks into 52 weeks in the year. And right now we have on the books, not even the ones that we have quoted out right now, 42% of last year's event stack. So we have quoted or in process. No, this isn't the quoted. This is only in process or already completed this year. 41% of the amount of events that we did last year, all year.
Yeah.
So to be ready for that, we have to be good. We have to be on top of our game. But that over communication piece is why event planners and the professional clients really love what we do, is we're able to focus on those little details, because the other parts, that's we need to have that on point. But us thinking through the whole event and the logistics of their thing and well, what about this and what about that, and always having a rain plan is why they love working with us, because we've got it all handled. And an event planner loves it because they get to move on. They know this one's covered and they can go handle the caterer that it's going to be iffy or whatever the case is. They just set it and forget it with us.
Yeah.
Like I do with you.
I've seen that in the wedding industry, where like there's certain vendors that it's great, that if this photographer or this wedding planner shows up, that like the whole thing's going to go off without a hitch. But then there's some vendors out there's like, they may show up on time, they might show up an hour early, or things like that. And you're talking about that 42%. I'm realizing like that's a lot of communication that has already gone out, right? That is a lot of informational calls that have happened, been recorded, been transcribed, turned into notes. So, and to your point, we're only 7 or 8 weeks into the year. And so I think that's really powerful, because now you've got that information stored away. And, for events that are happening 3 months from now and 2.5 months from now, you can pick up where you left off, and all the details you captured last week are right there waiting for you. They're not lost. You don't have to go through emails. Beth and Ben, I can't imagine how many emails that you manage from just different conversations going on. So like, it's not in a list of emails that are 2 months old. It's, I search for the contact's name or the company name, and all the details are right there. And it makes you guys a lot more efficient. Cool. Well, I know we're kind of wrapping up on time here, but really appreciate you guys joining on here. Kristen and I talk a lot about how I enjoy building here. One, Ben, because we come up with some really cool ideas. It's not out of the box stuff. We have some clients that are just trying to get from spreadsheets into a project management system, which is great. And then there's these different layers. And as you continue to grow, we've continued to evolve those systems. I think we're at the end of our list right now, but I'm sure that we'll start a new list starting in the new month.
You're not at
you know, we kind of learn as we go.
Another thing in a couple of weeks I want to.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, I like how we test things out too, because sometimes we do the simple idea first, and then we were like, ooh, I need the ability to pause this email series for a couple months because the event's been delayed. We just added the ability to kind of manage postponed events, right? Like what happens to that? Or we're 90% sure this event's going to close. Can we type in the information today, but not trigger the 25 automations that happen? Let's just trigger the first couple as a placeholder so we don't like book over it, which is good because, you know, I think we have a calendar invite. So basically if Ben tries to go schedule on that weekend, it's like, before I say yes, let me go double check on this client before, you know, we double book ourselves. So all the things that you learn either too late sometimes, and then we go back and fix it, or we learn in the moment. But being able to have a system that's been fluid and we've been able to make those adjustments has made all of us kind of stronger. It helps me build some stronger systems for other companies. Ben, you and I have talked. I've stolen many of the ideas that you've given me and implemented for other clients. But we keep learning more and more what's possible, and then that kind of keeps expanding our imagination for those automations.
To be clear, though, I'm probably going to say yes to the client, and we're just going to double, triple book, you know?
Yeah.
You say yes and figure it out after, and they always
you can only protect so much against human behavior.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, really appreciate you guys joining. Christy, did you have anything else to add to that as we're wrapping up?
No, I think this was awesome. Thank you for taking us on a kind of behind the scenes tour of what the toolkit and Monday have done for you guys to help you scale.
Well, thanks for being great. Your responsiveness is fantastic too. That's
thank you.
Success. So
yeah, sometimes to a fault. It's not the most scalable, but right now, like I'm the people pleaser, and I'm here to help you guys whenever I can. Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.